Have you seen all the recent renewed controversy over reverse grip online?
Oh, yes. There is a lot of drama online at the moment.
I think we're going to need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Shadowverse.
Greetings, I'm Shad.
Greetings, I am Tyrant.
And greetings, I am Nate.
And we're going to be talking about reverse grip. Oddly enough, it's also not a subject I've done a deep dive on Shadowversity.
Well, no, I don't think you ever have.
I've referenced it tangentially in a lot of videos, but now we're going to be doing a dedicated discussion on reverse grip because it's getting a bit of discussion online.
Oh yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And there's been a creator who's kind of risen up in terms of prominence doing short videos, sellsword art, and one of his main kind of themes is addressing reverse grip. And he doesn't think it's very functional.
No. Not that he's completely trying to disprove it, but he's trying to completely test it.
Shout out to him. I've really enjoyed a lot of his shorts, and I think he's doing good work. And so now I want to give our thoughts on it. And I have a bit of a takeaway that I don't think is going to be changed too much, even after experimentation. And so we're going to talk about the mechanics of it, what I feel are strengths, mostly limitations, and then we're even going to practice it a bit. We're going to put it to the test and see what happens.
I would like to really give it a shot and give it a test for myself, because I know there are some historical references of reverse grip. I don't know how functional they'd be.
Well, that's the interesting thing. There are certain positions where you might get more leverage, like this. But in terms of general sword combat, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So when we test it, I think we should eliminate half swording for the testing purposes. I want to develop techniques that are
I don't think
completely reverse grip.
I think we try both, because in some of the sources, which off the top of my head, we've got Maya, we've got Maya, we've got your favorite one.
Doflamingo.
Yeah. Godingo. Now I'm saying it wrong. As well as Fiore and a few others who have little bits and pieces of this throughout their manuals. But a lot of it is half swording, or at least starting as half swording, or turning into throwing for a tournament. Yes, you will throw a sword in a tournament, or apparently at least they did. So to eliminate that, we're eliminating a lot of options.
But at that point, it's just half sorting. I feel like if we're going to truly test reverse grip, we should try and create techniques.
Just a single.
Yes.
I love the sound of that.
That doesn't mean you can't eliminate, touching the blade here and there, but completely grabbing it, completely. Okay. I think because if you were wearing plate gauntlets, it wouldn't be that hard to, use it a bit more leverage, because you have no leverage like this. I don't know. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
Let's talk about that. Let's actually test it, because this is one of the most important criticisms of reverse grip: leverage and reach.
I want to preface this by saying that, relatively, I'm not trying to big myself up here, but I have quite strong wrist strength. That is something that I purposely train a lot. I want to have. So even I think I'm going to have trouble with the leverage on a reverse grip. This, no problem. This is nothing. Once we start this.
We mentioned reach and leverage, but interestingly enough, one of the probably even more important than reach and leverage for me in regards to reverse grip is how much more awkward it is to use two hands on the sword than one.
I wouldn't.
To the point where you almost can't, which cuts out so much leverage and speed, because if you want to two hand like this, but then your wrist is hyper extended like that, you have less range of motion, maybe like this, but again, range of motion awkward as well.
All of a sudden your range of motion is completely cut off from this side.
And so if you wanted to get a two-handed thing, rest position like that, ready to do strong attacks like this, it kind of works, but it is so much more awkward than just this. And the range of motion that you have from this position, right, is just so much more than reverse. And so already, just by the preference and appreciation for greater range of motion, reverse grip, I would completely discount in my own I guess, preference as to what I would personally use.
And these are longer swords, and all of a sudden, the reach that I have is just this. I can't.
Well, that's the other interesting.
I can't extend any more than that before the tip starts to drop down.
Well, it's because of the angle of the wrist. The wrist can angle down. Okay, it can't angle up nearly as well. To angle up, I have to bend my elbow and bring in my hand further. Okay, and so with the sword, to extend it, just like that, arm fully extended. To do this, I can't. I have to bend it lower reach instantly.
So I would say that reverse grip is close quarters, and at that point, you might as well use a small blade.
Not necessarily, because there are withdrawn stances, even in traditional swordsmanship, like Wrath, okay? Where I have it back ready to go. And so you could have a stance where it's there ready to go up, to go down. And this is one of the big takeaways that I think I'm just going to cart before the horse, just jump to it, because it's going to come up again and again, right? What I'm showing here, could you fight like this? Yes. I could fight like that, and I wouldn't be hopeless.
Yes, you can fight like that, but I mean, I could fight on my knees, but is
exactly, that's my point. Even though you can fight with it in a functional enough way that some people have been saying, because you can get a level of function out, it's not completely useless and you shouldn't discount it completely, right? But to me, just because you can fight with it to a level of functionality, right? Like, you know, all this stuff, doesn't mean it's worth doing, because there is another way which you can almost get every single advantage or function that you can get out of reverse grip, but more.
Just no. When you are reverse gripping, all of a sudden you're hamstringing your movement. You don't have reach. You also don't have leverage, and you also, depending how you hold it, for example, if I'm on this side, I am at a huge disadvantage. The leverage here is non-existent. I have nothing. This side, maybe you can make an argument for it. Maybe I can step out, I can do other things. But as soon as I try and do something on this side, well, I have no power.
Let's test some leverage positions to emphasize that. But I'll end off my point I was making, which is really going to be the final takeaway, I think, because I've played around with reverse grip already, but we're going to test it just for the sake of everyone, right? The final takeaway is that could a really talented swordsman use reverse grip and defeat a less talented opponent? I would say yes.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. But that still doesn't mean he wouldn't have been able to fight better by using the conventional grip, because it offers so much more options and variety and points.
There is always an exception to every rule.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe there's some guy out there who's trained reverse grip his whole life and is avenging his family, and he is exceptionally good at it. He can beat a lesser fighter. But for the majority of people, for most people on Earth, reverse grip is not going to be the best choice for you.
Well, here's my next point. I've recently made a video on pedantry over I guess, being particular and sensitive about things doing one way or the other, right? I'm not sure if it's out yet already by the time this one's out or not, but if it isn't, oh, just you wait. And the takeaway from that video that we can combine with what we're saying here, even though I think one method, honestly, has objective advantages to it, if you really, really love reverse grip and you want to fight that way, go to town, fight with a sword in between your butt cheeks if that's the way you like to do it, okay? Do it the way you want, and that's fine, have fun, okay? And I wouldn't force you to do it any other way that you don't personally want to do. But when it comes to, all right, is one way objectively superior to the other based on range of motion, leverage? Okay, I have thoughts on that then.
Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts as well, more in regard of how unorthodox it is. So for anybody that's done a lot of right-handed versus right-handed sword fighting, they'll know the moment you go and fight it versus a left-handed person, everything is flipped, everything is mirrored, and all of a sudden you lose all composure. Having an opponent come at you like this for the first time, so it may be a one-trick pony, but for the first time, is very disconcerting.
Well, that's one of the other things, because to me, one of the most valid forms, perhaps, of reverse grip is instead of trying to grab it like this, grab it like this.
Yeah, the half swording examples. As well, like I said, they do throw them in some of the tournaments, but
there is an argument to be made as like, is this valid reverse grip? Like what Tyrant was saying, is this honest, valid reverse grip?
It has a lot more forward punch compared to...
Yeah, like because you can even do it like this instead of like that, and you do have options, right, to do some really interesting things. Could you do all those same things just like this?
Not quite. I think there's a difference in the range of motion depending on how you have your hand. So, for example,
You got a point.
I think that if you're striking with the upper hand,
Yeah.
you're really coming down. But with the arm up, you've got a lot more forward
Yes.
motion and leverage to pull back down if you happen to hook
Right.
behind someone's neck.
You're right about this, because the downward motion, I can already feel I have more leverage in a downwards motion like this versus a downwards motion like this.
I would argue versatility after you've got someone like this, you may have more leverage, but you're also, once you're down in that position, you're also hamstrung by being in this position. This, you're already back. Like it's, I feel like if you're planning ahead for a counter attack or for
It's
a
true
counter,
that to switch between that to conventional, I mean,
Very-
having the hand already in. Because if this did have an advantage, as soon as you let that go, you have all the disadvantages that we were trying to mention.
Just seeing if I can randomly go from reverse to forward or back again.
All right. Way to transition between conventional and reverse grip. So you just start with a flourish like this, and then you go
I think
like
I have
that.
a faster way.
You have a faster way?
yeah, like that.
No, but you're letting go of the blade. Whereas, like, no.
Oh, but twirling it in your fingers is better, is it?
It looks fancy. From at least holding it like that, where a lot of reverse grip is held with the blade, from there to standard grip is actually pretty quick.
Interesting. Holding on the blade. Wow, you're right. Oh,
The other way around, not so much.
you gotta put, like to get it to there is fine, but to get it back is awkward. I would almost have to
But
like
your hand-
that.
Your hand is
But-
on the strong of the flat. Your hand is on the strong of the flat to actually get that. It's not on
But
the
when you have a long
honestly, we're memeing. Like in combat, don't throw your sword up where it's like whoa. Like that. I don't. Unless unless you want to show off and there's enough range from your opponent that they can't take advantage of it. Yeah, show off and maybe get away with it. But anyway.
Did you get it?
Yeah,
None of us saw that.
it's not that hard.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want to
We
be.
were trying to be fancy.
yeah. Does this look cooler though?
Sometimes it's just
Really?
easier to just do that.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I would not want to be grabbing the plane. just simply like that, done.
The other kind of bit of theory to discuss is what length of sword would be most appropriate for reverse grip, because there is the important kind of caveat to mention that when it comes to daggers, knives, there doesn't seem to be any real massive detriment in fighting reverse ice pick grip, they usually call it, with a dagger compared to a sword, because you already need to be close enough in close range, and leverage isn't really an issue because you're never going to be getting into many binds with a dagger in a knife fight.
So I may have tested a little bit of reverse grip in my time, and I have found that it doesn't matter. And the reason why is
The size of your sword, or
the size of your sword doesn't matter, because as soon as you are reverse grip in anything, you need to close the distance. So the amount of leverage you'll have with a short or long sword doesn't really matter because you're going to be up close anyway.
Because there is a good point. You still have the issue in terms of the range of motion with your wrist, because up like this, I can extend and thrust to a much longer range than the classic. This is for stabbing, really, and perhaps hooking and slashing, but to get a really good thrust, right? You still have the disadvantage.
So when it comes to a sword, you have less leverage at the tip. So when you would be using reverse grip, you wouldn't want to be at the tip either way, whether it's short or long. You would want to be down here where you have, I'm not going to say good leverage. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to say more leverage than not. Let's put it that
Funnily
way.
enough, being the strong of the blade. Because that's what that's for.
Exactly. And you'd want it down here. So having the length doesn't really matter that much unless they have a shorter blade and you have a little bit more, keep them back a bit.
That's actually a good point. If your opponent has a normal size sword and you have a longer sword and you're reverse gripping, you've got about equivalent range now.
That's
roughly,
interesting.
or even maybe a little shorter on the person still reverse gripping.
Yes.
So you almost need the longer reach to compensate for the lack of motion.
But as soon as you start to any motion in terms of combat, you need to close the distance anyway, because you just can't fight at range with reverse grip. You just can't.
We totally didn't test this like a little bit before we turned the camera on.
We will do some sparring because that'll be fun, but let's do some basic kind of leverage tests. Now, the interesting thing is, there are strong positions and weak positions in reverse grip. So I think we need to test both. Because one of the weakest positions, right, is if you get in a bind like that. And so if you bring it up like that, okay, like this.
I have absolutely zero leverage right now.
So try and resist.
I can't.
You can't. And
Which
like,
is why I would want to step in.
But you're using one hand. So just one-handed versus one-handed, right? Now, let me try and get it further down. And like, so this would be the strongest position where I'm on the strong of his blade, but on the weak of mine. So I technically have the least amount of leverage here that I can muster. So try and resist, and I'm going to push. I instantly kind of just slide down to where I get the more leverage.
And during...
I'm going to interject because I would like to try something. Put the edge into it and see if that does any better.
All right. So...
Again.
Like, it's so interesting. I naturally find the weak point, and instead of pushing, so if you hold it here, like, this way is good structure, but it naturally finds the downward thing, and it goes there. So try and resist, and I'm just going to push, and it breaks. Now,
and I have no leverage to keep my edge alignment like this. I have it just naturally rolls down. And that's me bracing it on my arm with the cross guard.
All right, what do you feel is the strongest structural position in reverse grip? And we'll test leverage there.
I would say this is where I would say I'm at my strongest, because this here gives me good positioning to push inwards in this motion.
Can you get a good defensive, so we're talking what, maybe a downwards cut?
I would want to step in near the cross guard and try and catch you there, where I have more leverage. I don't know if we should say it yet, but in testing, if I was using reverse grip, I would always want to have a second dagger, because we've found that counter-attacking can work to a degree.
The question is though, could you get all the advantages of doing that in conventional grip and more? And I think you could.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's uniquely benefiting reverse grip.
It's not.
Yeah.
But in terms of leverage, you have the most leverage here, of course. In this position, I find I have more because I can brace my body like this.
Let's test it. So if I hit down and we're just trying to push, you're right, you're holding it there. That's good. That's good. So that's the strongest, but this is poor. So if you hold it back, that's the weak of my sword against the most strongest leverage point. If I go down, okay, that's interesting.
I'm strong, though.
No, but this is a good comparison because you're holding it pretty well. So there we go. So that's the strongest leverage point in reverse grip. Or one of the strongest, right? Like that.
And it's important to note that if I was using reverse grip, I would never stand statically. I would be closing distance and moving.
My massive criticism for that stance and strength of leverage, you're not covering your upper body.
Oh yeah.
That is such a problem where so many at-rest positions has the blade pointed down.
And most of them are in your center line, because that's where you get the most leverage and you have the most balance.
Yes.
But at the same point, you're leaving yourself wide open.
And so if you've done a lot of sparring and training with swords, there's an interesting thing that naturally, you don't even need to teach people this. They naturally end up doing it because the body mechanics just start to flow where the blades go. And what it is, striking usually ends up higher, okay, and blocking, and the guard position, it always ends up with raised arms because it is easier to defend the legs just by moving them back and letting it slip versus trying to defend the upper body.
Now,
I just want to mention why. It's because the arms are attached to your upper body, and therefore the closest range you will get to someone is on the upper body. As soon as you aim low, suddenly I have less range. And as a result, it's easier for you to just move your legs back and defend your legs. And so a lot of stances and guards have the sword covering the upper body, and you have your legs withdrawn to defend your lower body.
And as we tested before, a lot of the upper guards for the reverse grip, I have no leverage.
It's dog crap. Just dog crap. So once again, that is such a huge problem with reverse grip. The lack of leverage you have to defend the upper body is really bad.
Yeah.
I normally wouldn't do this, but I want to play devil's advocate and give this my absolute best shot, but from a body mechanics point of view, not from a HEMA point of view. And the reason being is because I know of manuals, like I said, that this is in, but I can't say that I've trained that. Yeah. So this is just pure body mechanics, but I want to give this a good go with a bit of force. If anybody is happy to.
So we'll get the training swords, and is that what you're wanting to do?
Well, yeah, I would.
Before we do that, could me and Nate test with steel swords,
With gloves.
some techniques, with some gloves,
Yeah, I think so.
just so we can. I don't want to dismiss it right out of hand. I think there can be some techniques that may be effective, but there will always be caveats. I'm feeling.
We should note, because whenever we're doing steel, we're not going full intention.
Oh, no.
So this will be maybe a little bit of speed at the start, but we slow down as the blades go from about this far away from an opponent to this far. It doesn't seem like much, but we know our ranges. So
And we will be trying to do some faster testing, but that's where we use the foam boffers for
exactly.
safety.
But let's give it a shot with full steel leverage first, and I'm going to get gloves.
So let's just say I came in with a strike like this. Now, I have no leverage here at all, period. However, something to note is as soon as I change my pivot point,
That's like, I know you probably saw me go woo. From here, my natural reaction is to lift and get that out of the way to then strike my opponent. But that lift
the problem is
created that immediate danger of, I've put that in the line of my face now.
I simply just have to move the positioning of my hand, and the trajectory of my blade is straight at your face. Another one was something like this, I simply wouldn't do. I have no leverage here. I can't do anything. He's got me here. However, more of a knife attack, I would say, if I went like this, I would want to come into this guard, and I would have gauntlets on like this one, and I wouldn't be afraid of touching this blade, and I would be up.
Although this does get sketchy, because I feel like if you did that, let's go through those motions again.
So,
I counter, you then counter the counter, and I counter the counter's counter. Like, it starts to get really into HEMA, where motion A turns to motion B, which turns to motion C.
one we did, I think one next to test, sorry, is a downward strike. This,
I don't like that.
we haven't really been able to figure out any sort of way to not only defend it, like I have no recourse here.
Yeah, like I'm knocking it basically out of your hand, and it's that motion. It's really, so I can try to be fancy and do that, but if I miss that, I'm dead.
And I could,
So exactly, so my emotion is just to knock it off completely offline and give it a good hit.
and I've got
down.
nothing to come up with, and I can't think of anything to come up with. But this one, I would want to come in for.
Yeah, that's a stalemate.
You know what I would do in that? Because if you came into attack like that, I would just do this. I would move back and hit you on the arms, because you're not defending your upper body, and it's not hard to just move back and avoid it. Because I can outreach you so easily.
You can.
That's a good point.
But I feel like at this point, it wouldn't be. If you're a reverse grip, I think naturally you're going to have a penchant to be close quarters.
So this, if I had a stance, like if I was like this and you came in like that,
Yeah.
my natural response would be, so you go.
I don't know if I'd go for this right off the bat. It would be more like in the middle of something.
Because even if it was like this, just
Yeah.
that, like I would outreach, move back, because so much of my defensive reflex, right, is to always move back the legs and lower body in an attack and present the sword in defense. And I've sniped so many hands with that.
I think because you are trained like that, you are trained to. However, if you're trained reverse grip, you wouldn't want to give them that room. You want to be up nice and close to take away that advantage.
But
Because-
even in approaching, to get close, you have to deal with this in your face.
You do, but I wouldn't start with something like this. I would want to. I haven't thought that far ahead yet, but I would want to try and at least be up somewhere like this to get close, to
wanna
close
do
the
some
distance.
Sparring.
In a lot of techniques of sword fighting, if you're versing a stab, the idea is to knock it left and right. You don't want to knock it up and down. So there are a few different ways of doing it. Go again. There are a few different ways of doing it, or you can just, if you have a two-hander, just counter and knock it offline. But I'm a bit limited if I try to do this upside down. So the only thing I could think of was that. It's really knocking it off to the side, and it has quite a bit of speed, but I need to get that right.
It has quite a lot of speed, but no power.
True.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a little bit hard because this is more like you have to be here. You have to feel it in your hands.
You do.
But it doesn't have that much leverage behind it when you do that.
So if I, just out of curiosity.
If I really wanted to like thrust straight into you, it would be a bit of a different story. With that, you are able to knock me off.
But with
the
this,
reverse grip, first off, it's knocking it into the path of him. This is bringing it across his center line, straight across here. But when you're stabbing in a motion like this, even if you're knocking it off center, there's still a chance that it's going to get you. That is risky.
Absolutely. That feels much sketchier to time than it does like so. But I mean, that naturally brings me into a shot, not a powerful shot, but copping a blade to the face, even if it wasn't enough to really even cut through the bone, is still a cut.
It is. I would get out of the way of that. Just period. Like, if I'm reverse gripping, I'm not going to be slapping blades like this.
Let's try. A lot of people, when they fight in basically a big X. They'll fight up and down, sort of arms and legs. So how about you strike at me a few times with arms and legs, and I'll just see what I can do.
How much leverage do you have when you do that? So if I can,
So let's stop there and then just push. I have a bit, and I feel like that might slap. It's the flat of the blade that's slapping him on the side of the head, so it would be an ear slice. Yeah, I have to also go two-handed. So, go again. Nah. So, that changed the direction, but I can feel that leverage. Just go slow. It goes down. So that concept of me doing what I was trying to do gives it a bit extra.
So this is my strongest point. We tested this before. This is my strongest point.
Am I holding?
I want you to do two hands, and I want you to try and... He comes in for some slash, I block it. I just want to see if you are able to. How much control?
I know, but I don't need it. And you're stronger than me. You're pushing my weight. You're not pushing my structure.
Okay, so let's say it's right in here. All right, go two hands up. Go try and push me back.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there was an interesting thing I noticed as well. We are actually, without even realizing, being a bit too compliant in the exchanges.
Oh yeah, that's why we're going to grab the LARP blades later.
But even in the areas where we're aiming, because you know one of the biggest targets in sword fighting is
the hands. Oh, the hands in the head.
Hands in the head.
Fingies though.
And your strike was coming in low to enable tyrants to block it. I want to do some quick tests, maybe grab a LARP one, to see how well you can try and defend higher aim strikes.
Okay, I want to make a caveat though, because LARP cross guards are very floppy.
They are.
So I think if you see the cross guard flop, we consider that it's at least been caught, even if we didn't have the leverage to go.
I agree.
I'll go get some LARP blades. Let's give this a shot.
Because I think there are ways that you could adequately defend yourself, or defend yourself enough. And I'm not saying defend yourself better in conventional, but in terms of it's not utterly useless like this, where if you brace it on your arm, you could probably slap, and get some defenses going, and then you can have the downward sweeping action. But because the sword is pointed lower, defending the upper body is just, and the head is going to be so much more difficult. And so I want to do some quick, exchanges where I'm going to be attacking Tyrant, aiming for the head, and you need to try and defend reverse grip to get some feedback and how intuitive. And I'm not going to tell him how I'm attacking or whatever. It's just going to be based on his reflex. And then we'll switch it up and see if I can do better or worse than how Tyrant goes.
You don't know the power of the dark. So you want me to defend? Or?
Yeah, defend. So I'm just going to come in and go. So look what happened though. You went high and the sword just didn't have the angle to block. Oh, that was interesting, because I went low, right, to try and sweep under the sword, but because the sword was pointed down, it caught it. That was interesting.
I'll save my thoughts for later.
Again, it's like, I think you're having trouble covering. I try different things and ways to block. Is there a way to hold it statically to guard the upper body?
I'm trying to keep it as a bit of a surprise, because if I'm holding it like this, I'm wide open here.
Well, just move your body back. It'll be harder for me to strike low when you like that. So that's why I think...
But the problem is, if I was to counterattack, which I would, I need to be close. So moving back gives you an advantage right away.
If you do see an opportunity to counterattack their phone, try it. And I'll have to get my defenses up, right? So that right there, that ending exchange was a perfect example. Can you leverage try and get me?
No, I can't.
To me,
I'm pushing back this way.
Could you leverage with your wrist to get my lower body from that position?
I could.
It's hard though.
And you're still right at my head.
I know, it's a slice right there. Because I really think this is probably the biggest flaw with reverse grip, is that it's pointing in the wrong direction to guard your head.
I have
even if I'm just here and I just want to do a quick bang.
Hold on a second. Even if I hold the tip up, I have no control over it. I am huge.
All right, hold it like this, right? And try and defend it. So this time try and block it and see if I can break your structure. Okay, so two hands, you have a leverage to deflect it.
Even then, I'm in this position. What can I do here?
Well, that's interesting because I'll do a follow-up, right? So I'm gonna go,
Bang, yeah.
well, do it, right? And we're gonna get locked in, so I'm gonna go, but then, okay, so I'm gonna reverse grip now, and I am gonna give it my best go, trying to defend, and even perhaps counter-attack a bit, okay? So.
Anything particular?
Honestly, I'm trying to adopt a natural stance that I feel guards my body, and I'm going with this.
So I'm going to come in for a strike. I'm going to tell you this because I would want to keep a distance if I saw someone like that. I would want to, like that. How much leverage do you think you have when you...
With two hands? Enough.
Enough?
I think I...
Okay. So what if I came in and...
See, oh, this is awkward, because yeah, you would have nailed me then.
I feel as though as soon as you fake out and you do anything, this sort of reverse grip fails because you can't react quick enough.
We'll see. I'm picking you in the head.
Yeah, I'm going for it. Like, there's no point in me slapping it out of the way for no reason.
Try.
You want me? Okay. Nice, that was good. I like that.
Yeah.
Do that again. Show me that.
Just came in like that.
Yeah, but you switched it up, didn't you?
I kind of, yeah. I tried to.
Ooh. So, would you just go pointy all the edge with reverse grip? Would you just go pointy?
I need that defense. Keep Warju at bay. It's similar to how I naturally like to fight with the point forward like this. Now I'm going like this. Gives me. Nate, you had some observations to share in from the sparring.
I did. So it sort of didn't matter whether you were the proponent for traditional grip or reverse grip. You were going two-handed a lot.
I was.
And you were going single-handed a lot.
Yes.
And something that I did notice when you were actually gripping is even though your primary hand was gripped reverse, your backhand wasn't, and you were almost fighting off-handed. So as much as you were like that leverage and the strength you were getting was from your back shoulder.
Exactly. But by doing two-handed consistently, I was able to get the leverage I needed to
I'm going to be a bit of a two-handed reverse grip purist here. I was wanting to test it in a proper, pure reverse grip like this. Because it's like you said, you're basically just at this point.
So I had some interesting observations from that as well. I was able to get the points right where I needed to be in several of the exchanges, but I'm not attributing that to the reverse grip. It was more awkward to get it there. What you're seeing was the direct result out of having an experience with distance and timing. Seeing where it's going in, understanding that as soon as on the backwards end of his strike, there's going to be an opening, and just leveraging it up like that.
And what you were doing was exactly what we found when we were doing our strike up to the head. As soon as we would grab it with this hand, and all of a sudden we have...
You've got that second leverage point.
Yes.
Which is very quick. So that tip wrapping around, going from a downward sort of backhand thrust to just rolling up and underneath.
And when I was like, the other thing that I noticed, the problem with it pointing down can be mitigated because this is covering my whole upper body, and also like this, I'm ready to guard. And so there are ways to work around the limitations, but what I noticed, all of it was more awkward. Every single thing I achieved in just that brief sparring, exactly, I would have been able to do just as well, and it would have been easier to do like this. And I think I just would have performed better in the conventional. But I still was surprised that I was able to fight that way to a level.
I'd like to give the LARPing a shot as well, but I'm going to try one hand. Oh, nah. That was an arm versus a waist.
And there was no leverage in your position.
No, he was cut. Oh, it looked like it ran me through, but that was on the forearm. It's a historical trick. You're dead though, you're dead.
'Tis but a scratch.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
I got a riposte with this thing, which is not easy. Oh, nah, no leverage. Oh, that is so much harder than just, like it's doable. Just to here?
Yeah, to here.
Okay, so prepped, I know where it's coming, but full speed, see if I can stop it.
Can you catch it and can you get some leverage on it?
Okay. I cut my own leg. Let's try that again. I did that on the way through. So you need to practice to not get your own leg. Just. Okay, I think I need a helmet for the next part.
So how did that feel? With that one when we went full speed just there?
The last one?
Yeah.
Little twisty on the wrist. Actually, I didn't feel like I really had as much structure as I would have liked. Versus steel, that probably would have reverbed down my wrist. I might have still got the block in. I might have still been able to lever it around to your waist for a whatever cut I could do. But
it's dicey when you
it's much more dicey. Okay, he's now going to aim at my head. You're next. No. Oh. No. Two dead idiots. Stab through the face, do a chop to the neck. Perfect. No. It is so much slower to get that blade up.
Now it's my turn, and I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to be aiming for Nate's head. What I like to do though when I fence is I love to do feints and redirect and try and get advantage, and I'm interested to see how Nate goes defending his upper body with reverse grip against the...
True reverse grip. So
well, hang on, I think you can try both. I don't know if you can't call this not reverse grip. I think, because if you're fighting someone who's got two hands, I think this, you got the same...
Okay, but the other hand has to be reversed too.
But you can do however, whatever reverse way. Oh, see. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but I didn't wind. Because...
Yeah, you just kind of raised it.
I can't wind. It kind of just went up and in.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So doing
Bouncing.
Yeah, well, let me try and do something, right? So you're recovering on after the deflection.
I'm recovering, but the problem is I need to just then continue committing. I don't have enough leverage to bring it back around to something.
Oh, that's what I was doing.
Trying to wind in. I've got no strength to hold that line.
That's what I'm noticing. If I can get underneath.
No, that's my wrist.
That's your wrist gone.
That's not my guard. I've got no strength on that shot either.
See. All right, so I'm going to switch up my thing a bit. You fight however the way you want.
I'm going to try this, just so I have something. No.
Oh,
that's thumb.
Interesting.
That was thumb.
Yeah. So, winding is a big...
Yeah, because you'll wind, like doing that nice and slow.
I'm winding everywhere where I can.
But if I go up to get a bit of strength, I go up to grab something and try to wind in for a shot, as soon as that's rewound, I've got nothing.
I got so many options to reverse, go down, to go around. I've
got one, commit.
Because what I'm noticing...
Oh no, I'd have two, but I'd have to change my direction.
One of the really great positions to take advantage of reverse grip. So if you go back reverse grip, right? And I come in for a strike and you go to defend it and then I get underneath.
Yeah.
I can leverage into the head and block my side.
Once that's moving, it's hard to pull back.
Exactly. So
it's not like a sword where I can spin the wrist down. The wrist is already down.
Because and there's a number of ways I was finding to try and feint and get underneath it. So I went in for a thing.
Yeah.
And then even just withdraw.
God, I would like just doing that again, but when I've got the sword and actual decent, like that's much stronger. But I've got the maneuverability now to compensate for it. Okay, so I still think it's effective. Not as effective as this. It has niche circumstances where it'd be like really practical to use. I still think having a maniac run at you like this.
We're not done testing. Thank you.
No, he gets both apparently.
I will reverse grip with that on, and I am going to be the aggressor. I'm going to close the distance, and I'm going to see what happens.
Okay.
We'll just see.
Change it up a bit. Shad does a lot of quick strikes, feints, and winding. So I'll try a little bit of winding, not so much feints because you sort of do need to wind, but a lot more direct cuts. We'll see how this works. Oh, nice.
What Nate is doing here is a very interesting and I would say effective strategy.
I got cut a couple of times.
But your thing is that in the exchange, your cut would have been a death blow, yours would have been mostly superficial.
Yeah, not all of them, but probably most of them.
But I'm noticing with the stronger committed strikes, you are getting through his defenses more directly. Lack of leverage and angle is effective.
And I have to be far more subversive. And even then, I'm not having proper leverage. So I'm trying to trick him.
When I'm not thinking about it. Yeah, I do notice that you were trying, there was feint, but there was aggressive feints as you were coming in.
All right, continue.
Okay.
I caught that on my glove. I didn't die from that one.
One thing that I'm noticing from the full committed kind of sparring is reverse grip had a big problem of generating strong, powerful committed strikes.
Yeah.
And in the exchanges, Nate's committed strikes were breaking the guard a lot and finding its purchase where the reverse grip was just struggling against it.
And I had to, it was very devious. I had to fight a lot of feints just to even get close enough. Because as soon as I try and close that distance, he steps back.
Well,
Distance is then...
Footwork is half sword fighting.
I love fighting that way. And so now I'm going to spar Nate a bit. And let's see if my natural inclinations might give me an advantage.
Sounds good. I'm definitely starting to form some thoughts on this. So, yeah. Oh. The tick of the forearm for a tip of an ear.
That's one of my favorite moves, is seeing an attack, withdrawing and take advantage of the follow through. So you can do it in reverse grip, but it's harder.
That's definitely a stronger stance. I don't feel like I can get your head anywhere near as much.
So
nah, forearms for neck.
oh, that was lost my hand then. Sorry, that would have been chopped off arm completely.
Yeah, there was a nick to my neck, but I think you were just out of range.
That was such a solid cut.
Oh, good.
Loved it.
Oh, yep. Forearm.
Oh, hand.
So with two hands, that is actually a lot harder to fight through. Plus, it's hard to tell on camera, I imagine, except for those of us who have done a lot of training. But when two people line up, you can kind of just instantly see if they go like this, you know what to do, they go like this. So all of these little motions, Shad and I kind of were, hang on. So there's a lot of hesitation to see who can get the shot in.
But it felt like a legitimate defensive stance that was hard to get through and break.
That felt harder to get through because you were using your body properly, leaning backward and forward. There wasn't as much footwork because we're trying to stay in frame. But it was definitely harder to hit.
You can get structure like this. Like I said, same experience that I had with Tyrant. I think every single strike I was able to land would have been able to do with conventional grip, but easier.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot, in similar way to Tyrants, not all of them, some of them were hitting quite nice, but a lot of them were, a slash that might have gone that deep into my forearm or quite literally chopped off my ear, but not caved my skull.
A lot more doubles because it's just harder, first time really giving this a solid go, harder for me to kind of have what you do with swordsmanship. You develop there's an actual sense. I forget what the sense is called, where you know where your position of your hand is without looking at it.
Spatial awareness. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I don't know.
So I know my hand isn't touching, but it's close.
Yep.
And I know how to get close like that. You develop that same spatial awareness with swordsmanship when you develop, where you just know how close you can get and not hit because you have a spatial awareness. I don't feel I have that yet.
No, it feels a lot more floppy.
There was times where like, oh, you hit me. I was like, you know.
Well, something that I was trying to take advantage of is that this was waving around. Now, when I think anyone has been fighting single-handed, there's a lot less control. It's a lot easier to get through. Harder to break because the recovery is quicker to bring the point on, but the point still wavers. Yeah. And I was trying to take advantage of that by coming in and like letting a feint go and then try to chop in for the hands and the arm. I think I got your hand once, your arm once.
That one you got on my forearm was just beautiful.
You did nip me in the neck.
But I lost that. If that was sword, hand chopped off.
Oh yes,
so solidly. All right, so they want me to try what they're calling true reverse grip. I don't know.
One hand.
I reckon this is valid. Don't you think? Let us know in the comments.
If he's holding it like this, he's basically holding it with the offhand. He needs to be like this. If he wants to be a true reverse grip sword master,
let us know, because this could be the big defining feature about how functional it is.
Yeah.
Because look, fighting like this, I was managing.
I feel like half swording like this is very, very comfortable. But I, like that, no. Like this, yes. Like that, no.
All righty, you ready?
Sure. Yeah.
It's kindergarten for
You don't have the speed though. Like
I know the speed and
exactly.
Like this is dog crap.
Exactly. So just go to like whatever ward you want.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah. And what I'll do is I'll tell you exactly where I'm going, which is just your head straight down, top of the crown. I won't tell you when, but I'll tell you like that's where I'm going. Not as
useless.
I will give Shad this. He moved his body out of the way faster than he could get his sword up. So he's got the reaction, but the blade just
I know. Can't. Like there's no structure to block that.
Not as easy as it looks, is it?
Well, if you want to actually fight like a proper, technique thing,
it's not true reverse grip.
it's cheating because it's offhand up.
I mean, I think I'd almost run into the same limitations trying to fight with a longsword one-handed, because not as much. I can still have more
leverage,
control.
But the way it's designed to be used, we're not using it that way.
I mean, I have more control, but far less than that. Yeah. But this was just like...
It's hot, isn't it? All right.
So I've been fighting reverse grip the most today, and my fingers are really sore. Specifically these three bottom fingers, and my forearm down here is quite sore, and I feel very fatigued. Now, the same amount of time fighting with the sword normally,
nothing.
No problem. This already, I'm tired.
I mean, I was shocked at the difference in control and combative ability I had between one-handed reverse grip and two-handed. That was night and day.
I have to admit, over X many years of fighting, I've tried that from time to time, but never really given it a serious shot. Like this was about as serious as we could get without full gear, but never given it a shot as serious as this. And I come into this video thinking, okay, it's going to show that it's got a few good points, but in my mind now, that's been reduced to very much opportunistic, surprise attack, not expecting an upside down sword, or it just so happens to be there. And now, because you know how to use an upside down sword, you know what to do from that technique, but you'd want to swap back. You'd really want to swap back.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think about the two-handed reverse grip?
I still think you're using it offhand.
So you still think
I still think you're basically using it offhand, because you've got, I picture it like an oar in a boat. One hand is doing all the work, the other is just kind of holding it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of both. Where you get
not true reverse grip.
Let us know. Is it true reverse grip? Let us know in the comments below. I'm very interested in it. My kind of thoughts on it are, it's weird. Okay, I was not expecting it for it to be as functional as I was able to make it in two hands. At the same time, I was not expecting it to be so dog crap useless in one hand, because that was just...
We found, even when
I knew the strike was coming in, I had no structure and it just broke and came in.
Like I said, I feel like my mind has completely evolved with this, because I kind of feel like I've gone from the person who saw it and expected it to work, and maybe even have made a comment here or there saying that it's worked. Not that I've done that, but those of you who talk with me online will know that I'm like, oh yeah, this should work. To, okay, this is going to be very niche. Like I said, when we're trying it with steel blades and we're trying it really slow, we found a good few uses.
We found some good techniques that if you practice them enough, I feel like they could.
They might work.
Yes.
But then we tried it full speed with LARP and breaks down. It's like, it might work. We got some double kills. We got some shots in, but
that was me being very quick and very agile, where Shad, when you tried it, you were obviously a bit more static. Unless you're going to be that fast and that quick all the time at every moment, and even then it's probably not going to work. Like,
so even with my kind of double-handed reverse grip advocacy, okay, I can still not think of a reason why you would choose even this way versus the conventional way.
No,
every single thing that I was able to pull off, I felt I could have done easier and better. With conventional grip, people might say you're finding it easier because you're better trained in conventional versus reverse, but already feeling the difference in the body biomechanics and the range of motion and how awkward it was to get in certain positions. Like I said, I can't think of a way or reason why you would choose it over conventional, except for you thought it was really cool and you liked it, or maybe you are better that way. But
I think that I can still think of one, which is that original half sorting that I come up with. That original half sorting.
Nate,
I invented half sorting.
Reverse grip half sorting.
The original that I mentioned at the start of the video, where this to me feels more powerful and stronger than this. So if I'm in this type of a structure and the blade happens to go behind my opponent, I'm now in a one-handed grip. I might fight like this for a second, but oh my God, do I want to go back to that? Maybe not fingering the guard, but going back to that really quickly.
Fingering the what?
Fingering the guard.
It's called fingering the guard. Yeah. It's a legit thing.
I like it when you say things
dirty.
like that.
Yeah. So you should hear the other names we have for this stuff.
This kind of understanding that we're having is reminding me of a certain argument that I've had where there is, look, you can get a level of functional use out of it. It's not useless in the sense you are able to fight with it to a level. You can still kill someone holding the sword that way, but it's just nowhere near as good, in my opinion, from practicing and looking at it, as a way that is easily accessible. You could do just as easily. Do you know what argument I'm referring to?
If you say nunchucks, I swear.
The reverse grip is the nunchucks of sword fighting!
Nah, reverse grip and nunchucks are awesome, and anyone who thinks otherwise is an incel basement dwelling loser!